Welcome everybody, Dax here. Hope you guys are all doing well today. I've had this idea in my head for a little while now. It's been brewing. And that is, how should you be playing your games on your Switch? So what I mean by that is, the Switch is a hybrid console, so you can play docked or handheld, and not every game is actually able to switch between the two, but the vast majority are. We've had a lot of titles that have been historically handheld titles now on Switch, and then we've also had a lot of home console releases also be on Switch as well. And so this has kind of made me wonder, out of all the games out there, all the beloveds, what is the best way to play the game that you have in mind? And so I'm going through a little list that I've made of the most popular, common Switch games out there, and I'm going to be organizing them into different categories of how you should be playing them. Obviously, there's no wrong way to really play a game, but I just thought this would be a fun little list. So as you can see, I've broken this down into several different categories. We have handheld. So these are games that would basically be optimal if only used in handheld. You're really not getting a whole lot. If anything, you're losing some benefits from using it in docked. We have docked only, so it's kind of the inverse of that. We have either or, so these are games that there's really no benefit to using handheld versus dock. And then you have kind of in between, so you have mostly docked, so games that play pretty well both but are optimal docked, and then same thing for handheld. I'm not including tabletop mode just because tabletop mode is not a preferred method. It's a compromise. No one goes out of their way to say, oh, I'm gonna go play tabletop mode. It's basically your last resort if you need to use docked but you don't have anything available. So tabletop is not included, but these are the 5 categories. First things first, let's start out with Warioware. So this is the newest game on this list, but I am putting Warioware in mostly handheld. It's basically, the main reason why is just because a lot of those micro games are perfect for on the go. The only thing that I'm not going to put in strong handheld is the strong emphasis in multiplayer. So I think because of the multiplayer aspect, I'm going to just put it in mostly handheld. So I think it works there. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. So this is another mostly handheld game. This one I'm going to put in mostly handheld because, it's originally based off of a Game Boy game. Similar to WarioWare, it definitely looks good docked. There's nothing wrong with playing it on the TV, but it's rooted in its original design for Game Boy. So a lot of the levels are designed around that. The next one is Mario Maker 2. So Mario Maker 2, I am going to put in almost entirely handheld. And the reason why would have to be because of the creation tools. So when you're playing, you could really play it on either or. I think the kind of sprite style looks best on handheld, so that makes me lean handheld. But the main reason why we're putting it here is because when you're creating, it's way better with the touchscreen. It's definitely doable docked, but I think if you want the most optimal experience, I would just play it handheld. The next one is Super Mario 3D All-Stars. This could really go either or. I was kind of on the fence because the older out-of-date graphics kind of look better on handheld. Like, you'll kind of see a theme here that they're not really the best looking games for modern standards, tend to look better on handheld because of the smaller screen. But all 3 of these games were originally made for home consoles. I think you could really do either or. There's really not one reason to play it on one over the other. Mario Galaxy would probably look best docked, but then 64, I don't see anything wrong playing that handheld. They had that on the DS, so you know it's doable. But on to the next one, and that's Splatoon 2. And I would put this in mostly handheld. The reason why is because you could play it either or, but I think it's better handheld because of the easier motion controls when you're holding the Switch portably. Everything else is about kind of even, but I think that's enough of a difference here that I'm going to put it in mostly handheld. The next is Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury, being the Switch title. And for that, I'm going to be putting it in mostly docked. I mean, you could, it's like a 2.5D, so you could play it handheld, but there's a strong emphasis on multiplayer. And then with the Bowser's Fury content, I think that's a superior experience in docked. And then we have Ring Fit Adventures, and this is probably one of the easiest ones on here. This is clearly a docked experience. With the controls, it's not even doable in handheld, so kind of enough said there. Pokemon Sword and Shield, and this I'm going to put in handheld, and the reason why is because it's not a very good looking game, as I've kind of talked about before. So I think the imperfections visually are not as offensive when you have it on the smaller screen. It's based off of games that have been historically handheld, so I think it just makes the most sense to play it handheld. I've played it docked, and I don't really feel like I'm missing out on anything by playing it in handheld mode. Next we have Let's Go, and this one I'm going to put in the handheld section as well, but specifically for Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, they're actually better looking games in my opinion. The art style is more consistent over Sword and Shield. So that's not the main reason why I'm putting it here. It's actually because of the terrible controls. So I think this is mostly a handheld experience, or almost entirely. I don't see why anyone would want to play this docked. Sword and Shield because of the graphics. Let's Go because of the controls. And then we have Arms, and Arms is mostly docked. You could play it in portable. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think that the large, 3D world scale looks better on a TV. And there's always, for those who want, there's the motion control option. So you could really take advantage of that in dock mode. Next we have Skyward Sword. So this is one of the recent games I reviewed. And this, I wasn't sure where to put it. I'm going to put it in either or. The puzzles, I feel like the format of the game's a good on-the-go experience. But then there's a heavy emphasis on motion control, so if you want to do that, you're going to want to do docked. I mean, I guess you could do tabletop, but as I said, that's nobody's preferred method. The visuals kind of translate well either way, so I'm just going to leave it here at either or. Next is Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild I'm going to put in basically only docked. I don't think this game is designed for the handheld. I think it was kind of an afterthought. It's not that you can't play it in handheld, but my main issue with Breath of the Wild in handheld is just the extremely small text and UI. It's really hard to read on a regular Switch, and so it's even worse if you have a Switch Lite. Because of that reason alone, I think it's better as a docked experience. But I mean, even besides that, the 3D world, it just looks so much better on your TV than versus a small little screen. And then we have Smash Bros, which is kind of similar to Breath of the Wild in that I'm going to put it here in docked. The main reason is just it's hard to see what's going on. I mean, even just playing something, 8-player Smash is just a complete mess in handheld. Some people can do it, but it's definitely not, you're not going to be playing at your best versus on a large TV. Even 4-player Smash isn't ideal, and so I feel like you really should be playing Smash docked. And then there's Pokemon Snap. So this is a mostly docked kind of game. I don't know if there's enough room here. Maybe a little bit of a tight fit. But Pokemon Snap I'm putting here because I think it benefits a lot. The visuals look really good, and I think it looks great on a big TV. And for Super Mario Party, this is only a docked experience. You really can't play it anywhere else. It doesn't really work anywhere else, which makes sense considering it's very multiplayer heavy. So Mario Party is only docked. New Super Mario Bros. U, and this I would have to say is mostly handheld. It looks great on the TV. I mean, the Wii version, the original New Super Mario Bros. On Wii looked great on TV. But these games being based off of, 2D Mario, I think really benefit from being on-the-go experiences. And they look great on the go. The only reason why I'm not going to put it in handheld, basically only handheld, is because there's a strong emphasis on multiplayer, which as you can kind of see is going to be a theme here. But since you have the ability to play with others, I'm just going to put it here at mostly handheld. Then you have Among Us. This I would only only put in handheld. I mean, it's basically a mobile game that's just ported over to Switch. There's no reason to be playing it on your TV. I mean, you can, but the main reason why I'm putting it in handheld is because typing is such a crucial part of the game. So for that, I'm going to put it over here at handheld. For Stardew Valley, I'm going to put it in mostly handheld. I don't think it's not playable on your TV, but I think it, just because of the sprite art style, it definitely looks better in mostly handheld. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. I feel like a lot of simpler games benefit from being on-the-go experiences, but I mean, as I said, you could really play it either or. I just think it's at its best handheld. Then we have Skyrim, which I was originally going to put in only docked, but I've actually decided I'm going to put it in mostly docked. The main reason why is because some of the visuals haven't aged the best, and so I think when you kind of take it on the go, it doesn't look as bad, but I definitely think it's more of a docked experience than it is handheld. And for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, this is one of those few games where I don't think there's really a wrong way to play it. You could play it docked, and there's nothing wrong with that. You could play it handheld. It has that perfect balance of looking perfectly proportioned in handheld mode, but also looking grand and big docked. There's really nothing to incentivize you to play it on one or the other. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, I'm gonna put it in either or. I think it's kind of hard to say because the visuals look better. It's kind of, as I said, that reoccurring theme of the visuals look better on handheld because they're not the best. But there's a lot of things on your screen at once, so there's really not one strong preference between the two, so I'm putting it here in either or. And then there's Mario Tennis Aces. This is another either or category. It doesn't really have any strong benefits to playing on either of the two. I think it's kind of like Mario Kart, it's a good balance. So that same balance I think applies to Mario Golf. These kind of sport games are fun to play multiplayer on docked with other people, but you could totally do that with Wi-Fi online as well if you decide to punish yourself that way. Both of these games, there's really not one strong, better way to play them, so we'll put them there. We have Luigi's Mansion, which I'm gonna put in mostly docked. You could definitely play Luigi's Mansion on the go, but I think with how great the visuals look, Luigi's Mansion, with all the details on screen, it's best to play it docked, but you could definitely play it handheld without any issues there. There's 1-2 Switch, which I'm just going to leave right here because kind of like Ring Fit and Mario Party, there's really nowhere else you can play it. I mean, the whole point of it's to be playing it on docked mode. So enough said there. Coming to the end of the list here, we have Animal Crossing, which I personally mostly played it docked with my time, but I know a lot of people like to play it in handheld. I think it can go in the either or category because the visuals have a good art style where they look great in handheld, like you're not missing out on details, but they don't look ugly when they're blown up onto the big screen. So I'm just going to put Animal Crossing on either or. And the last one we have is Super Mario Odyssey, which I'm going to put in mostly docked. It's definitely more playable than Breath of the Wild is in portable. I definitely think it's at its best when it's on the big screen TV. You see all these details, you get that sense of grandeur. And so I think Mario Odyssey is best docked, but really it's easier time to play handheld than some of these other games like Smash or Breath of the Wild. I'm going to leave it here at mostly docked. So as you can see, I don't have all the Nintendo Switch games, but I decided to try to get a variety of different ones, a lot of the popular ones that people are playing. Most of these games you could really play either or with maybe some slight preferences. I mean, it's the Switch, so games are designed for both. There's a few games that, are only designed for docked, and there's a few games that are basically optimized for handheld. I just kind of wanted to go through a list of how I think each of these popular games are best played. So some of the trends I kind of see here is games that are very big and open, so very 3D open world type of games. Definitely lean more towards docked. Very two-dimensional games are more of a handheld experience, or games that are based off of portable franchises, and then there's a lot of games that could really go either or, where there's not a whole lot of benefit. That's kind of how I would organize this list. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think down below. If you think I have any of these in the wrong spot, let me know, or if there's any games you want to include. But just kind of a fun little video idea I wanted to try out. But thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya!